My name is Anthony from Donovan Training Associates, and this pod is called Lead with Curiosity. We've got some great guests lined up, and they're going to share some of their lived experience, some top tips and techniques around people leadership. I hope you enjoy. The first guest we've got is Matt Brown, founder and CEO from a company called n-fuze. Okay, well, listen, it's my great pleasure to welcome to the podcast today Matt Brown, founder and CEO of n-fuze. Matt, thank you so much for joining me today. Very early start, travelled all the way from Kent to be here in Oxfordshire, so really appreciate you being here.
Absolute pleasure, thank you.
I think what I'd love to start with, if I can, is tell me a little bit about your background and I guess how n-fuze came to be.
Yeah, I mean, so n-fuze is a creative agency. We specialize in shopper marketing, in-store point of sale, and it was an inception from a love from design. Started 20 years ago, so we're celebrating 20 years of n-fuze in June this year, and it was always a passion to be a designer and to do something myself and have my own thing, and I kind of just found my way into it, if I'm going to be completely honest. And it's developed into this wonderful agency that we've got today.
Okay, so Matt, take us back to that kitchen table where it all began. Those early days, what did they feel like, and what kept you going?
Excitement and fear. Still does, to be honest. It's an emotional roller coaster. Starting it, running it. Overall, driven by ambition. I think, I had a great opportunity to set something up. I had the backing of some very supportive parents, but it was that drive. I knew I could do more, and that I wanted to prove myself and push and drive that ambition in whatever way I could in it. And it is a scary thing to do. Every decision you make is scary. It always will be, and I think that's a really nice place to be. It keeps you grounded. I've never got complacent about anything we've done. I've never just been happy that we've made it. It's a hard thing to say you run a successful agency, because I know we can do better. We can always do more. So it's that drive to do more, to be better, to evolve, to keep pushing forward.
In terms of those early days, then, when you started out, what were your ambitions for the business as a young designer, if I can put it that way?
So it was really simple for me. I had a passion for design, and I wanted to do that and share that with people. When n-fuze was created, I had two options: go to London, get a career, get a job, or try something on my own. I had no bills, no worries. I lived at home with mum and dad, very supportive parents, who were like, just go for it, give it a try. What's the worst that can happen, kind of thing.
Okay.
I'm not a city boy. I had no desire to do that London commute every day. So yeah, started up, had an opportunity, and to be honest, my feet haven't touched the ground yet. It just took off, and it's turned into this amazing journey for us.
So what was the big break then? What was the move from the kitchen table to, hang on, we've got something here?
A lovely family friend who owned a business manufacturing some POS gave me the opportunity to prove myself, basically. Did that. Equal points. They were in their journey. They had an opportunity to do the same, prove themselves with a large client. We were taken on board on that journey together, and I don't think either one of us knew how that was going to explode and turned into this amazing opportunity that, to be honest, we just grafted and put everything into to make sure that it was the best it could be. And yeah, it's one lucky break is all it takes. And people often say, "Oh, you've been really lucky." We've had lucky opportunities, but what you make of those opportunities is what really gets you somewhere. It's that graft and the hard work and the late night that people don't necessarily see.
Yeah, absolutely.
I've always been ambitious, always wanted to push myself, and that was my opportunity to do that.
Fantastic. And when you move from being on your own to taking someone on, what prompted that, I guess?
17-hour days, no holidays, no weekends, pure work volume. I must admit, when we started, it was never a case of I want to build an agency. It was I want to do something on my own.
Right.
And that opportunity came for me in the work that we managed to bring in. It was coming in thick and fast. I was willing to work every hour that was there, and I did. But there's got to be a cap to that. And at a point when you turn it off and go, do you know, I need some help. And take that really brave step into bringing somebody else into the fold, essentially, and starting that journey. And I was lucky enough to find a great partner and a person to bring in, and start that journey.
And that person is still with you
He
to
is,
this
yeah. I can
day.
feel his eyes burning into me right now. He's in the corner. Yeah, I'm very fortunate that we with Colin and all the other guys that work for us, they come and they stay a long time. We've worked hard on creating a culture that people want to be a part of, and it's fantastic to sit here nearly 20 years later and still have that wingman with me.
I'm going to put you on the spot now. How many n-fuses have you got?
We're at 40.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. And that's some milestone. 20 years is great. I hope you've got some big celebrations planned for that.
We have, actually. Yeah. We've got some really good plans this year.
Fantastic. Great stuff. So I'm interested in that journey. You said that you had never really intended to set up an agency. You wanted to do something for yourself and buck the trend and not move to London. And that's been quite a journey. In terms of that shift from being the person that did the do, to now leading others, when did you realize that you needed to step into that leadership space?
Quite early on, to be completely honest. I remember when Colin first joined and I was working all those hours, I hadn't had a holiday, I hadn't had a day off in 2 years, and it was shortly after. I think I probably dropped him in it quite early, sort of 3-4 months after he started. I was like, I need a week off. And that was kind of that realization of I can't do everything forever. I need to start relying on people, and that really sort of gets you into that mindset of people that you bring in. You're going to need to be able to trust. Kind of starts to build that foundation of how you want to work as a business and an agency, and what your values need to be. And to be honest, there's just been so many points through that journey where I've realized I just need to keep stepping back bit by bit by bit, to let others kind of step forward, and make the best out of the people you've hired.
So I'm interested, for someone, I know your attention to detail is off the chart insane, and you've put so much into this. So this whole letting go, and you've talked about trust there. What was the hardest part of that for you, that kind of letting go? Was there any kind of particular events or stories where you thought, oh, this is hard?
I think that there was one time when I was moving house for the first time, and any overtime and any extra additional work had always been done by me at that point. I think leaving somebody in the studio when I'm not there was kind of one of those first milestone moments of, I've got support now. I can kind of step away a little bit. Doing meetings is one thing, but having time off and being away, or leaving somebody to do some overtime when you're not there, is a big move. But again, there's so many of those moments that have come up. I can't pinpoint just one thing that was a pinnacle until much later in the journey, when I realized that the business growth and move forward relied so much on me working extra hours, that actually I had to take a big step back then for us to actually move forwards. And that's like a real life lesson, I guess.
So almost like a bottleneck?
It was a case of my first daughter, my first child, my daughter arriving, and not having the time to dedicate to n-fuze anymore, and suddenly having to dedicate it to a family. I realized just how many extra roles I was doing, and fulfilling. And that's really where leadership, I guess, for me, came into its own, where we had to think about seriously building a leadership team beyond myself and Colin.
Yeah. So what values have stayed constant over the last 2 decades as n-fuze has evolved?
All of our core values have stayed from start to finish. We've only recently really visualized those, brought those to life, started talking about them actively with the help of our head of people. But at n-fuze's heart, it's always been the same 4 values. So we have trust, pride, unity, and creativity. Okay. Being a creative agency, we put our spin on them. So we have creativity, skills on toast. Pride is in us, we entrust. Sorry, trust is in us, we entrust. Pride is aspire to inspire. And unity is we, not me. Really important. I think for me, the aspire to inspire is the most important one, because I think if you're inspiring people, you get the other values to follow. But underpinning all of those really is evolution as a theme, not really a value. It's something that we've always been about. I guess my greatest skill set is being able to take something and improve it and make it better. So that's always what we strive to do as an overall kind of vision, is to evolve the experience of working with us, whether that's internally or externally.
And it's interesting you talk about the evolution, because you've got a number of people who have been with you pretty much from the get-go, right?
Yeah.
And that's pretty rare in this day and age. So you've talked about the trust, but tell me a little bit more about that evolution, because I'm just thinking of some of the n-fuses that have definitely changed and evolved, but how have you encouraged them to do that over the years? Or has it actually just come from them?
Yeah, I mean, naturally they're ambitious. The ambition, or trying to keep that ambition with you is really hard. So it's working with them to provide that next step. You know, what does a progression path look like? What does more responsibilities look like? How can you be more accountable for your own work and your own clients and relationships and things? And we have so many leaders. So our terminology, we're a creative agency, so we change words. We've been talking about n-fusers, but they're our employees, our team, our
Sure.
n-fusers. Our managers are leaders. We don't talk about strategies. We talk about game plans. You know, we have our own way of talking and looking at things. And there's multiple leader levels within the studio now, and those are the ones that have kind of bought into what we're doing, worked with us, built the agency together, and that builds longevity in their service with us, because they feel like they've contributed. They've not just been told, "Here's your role, and this is what you're going to do." They really feel part of what we've actually built, and that really helps us.
Yeah, absolutely. And you talk about what you've built and what you created. Like, I think back to the first studio you had in Rochester,
Mm.
and then you moved to the Oast. And I feel like for anybody listening, because I tell your story a lot, and I so talk about people moving to an Oast, and then I get this kind of quizzical look. What's an Oast? So for those that don't know, what is an Oast, and why was it always a passion of yours to work in an Oast?
The Oast is an iconic building in Kent. It's a circular building with a pointy top, and it was designed to dry out hops. So Kent's renowned for growing hops and brewing beers. Yeah, we do forget. I'm a Kent boy through and through. Have been my whole life, so I forget that people don't know what they are. And you say an Oast house, and you get these funny looks, but they're beautiful buildings. And for me, not going into a city and staying local, it was important. We then worked with local designers and local people, and we built that kind of local agency vibe with the London style kind of service and quality. And you know, converted barns, converted those houses in Kent is iconic for us, and it couldn't kind of shout me and n-fuse anymore, really.
And tell us a little bit about the detail that went into that when you first got the keys, because if I remember rightly, you were pretty heavily involved with.
Yeah, I like being hands-on. So yeah, I mean, it was a huge investment for us. So at the time, we had two offices in a different location. The opportunity for the Oast came up, but we couldn't break our lease at the old place for another 2 years. So we
Okay.
effectively paid for two offices for 2 years so that we could get into this building. And we went from this really nice, maintained, modern building to a 200-year-old Oast with crooked floors and doorways and round rooms. So we literally left all the furniture in the old place and built new furniture. Lots of late nights. I'd do a full day in the old studio, have some dinner, drive over to the new studio. I like that because I like being hands-on. I like the attention to detail. It's the same with everything we do as an agency, and the processes we go through with the services is you've got to know how they're built. You've got to know how you've designed a process and how you've got there from A to B. To really understand it and to get the best out of it, and I'm the same whether that's building something in a computer or building it in reality.
I think that's a little insight into how
My
your
OCD brain
well, I
works.
was going to say amazing brain.
Amazing. My chaotic
however you want
OCD
to
brain.
phrase
Yeah.
it, which makes it more interesting for me of someone with that level of detail and control. And I don't mean controlling, but level of control, to go to that element of stepping back and not being the person that's doing the do, as it were. So I find that really interesting. How would you say your decision making, for example, has changed from, say, year one, where it was you, yourself, and I, to now where you're at? Has that changed at all? Or?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you can't work with people and not change the way you operate. I come from quite a traditional background and era where hard work is, that's part of our family motto. You graft and but you can't expect everybody to have the same mentalities and kind of ethos as you. or work ethics, I guess, or practices, however you want to phrase it, but adapting to different people, different personalities, and learning not to take things personally. So taking the emotion out of decisions. There's this great book that you might have heard of called The Chimp Paradox that you greatly recommended all those years ago. And I think that was a fundamental change for me in how I think about things, of recognizing that, you're thinking with your emotion or reacting with your emotions and not thinking logically. And that was a real changing point for me, is understanding that in yourself. You're dealing with people, and I'm sure they won't mind me saying, but creative people are highly emotional and
Hmm.
passionate about what we do. So you do have to get to know the people, and kind of think about how you're making decisions and involve them in those decisions as well. In the early days, it was easy for me to just make every decision and crack on with it. But as we've evolved and we've adapted, we've brought them into it, and it's much more of a collective. We ask their thoughts and their input, and they help shape the decisions now.
Fantastic. That book that you just referenced, The Chimp Paradox, Dr. Steve Peters, has stood the test of time, I
There's
think,
about
as
3
well.
copies in the studio, and I recommended it just last week. Yeah.
Fantastic. Great stuff. Perfect. Now, you mentioned AI earlier, and I'm really interested in getting your thoughts on this. So, I remember coming to see you, and you asked me a question. You said, "Would you be interested in meeting a couple of our new n-fuze employees?" And I said, "Yes." And you reached for a book. I've got the copy of the book here, actually. It's a great book. It's called Our Culture. I believe phase 2 is coming out shortly.
Yeah.
It's a work of art in itself, I have to say. And this is something I believe I'm right in saying that every new n-fuser receives as part of their onboarding process. It talks about the culture. It's full of really nice images of n-fusers themselves at work and so on, and wonderful images of the host. But you referred to 2 pages, and you introduced me to Tony and Alfie.
Yep.
Tell me about Tony and Alfie.
Tony and Alfie are the first digital n-fusers.
Okay.
So in this AI world, they were our first step into embracing what that looks like and how we start to introduce some AI tools and technology into the studio. And being different and quirky and creative like we are, we wanted to put our own spin on it. So rather than go down a robot or a tool-based kind of approach, we wanted to connect with people, and kind of get our teams to buy into it and embrace it. And yeah, so we created, Tony was the original one. Tony is our tone of voice. So she's really
Okay.
there to champion everything about n-fuze. She's been trained on our culture, our values, right down to our policies, how to onboard new people. And it really helps just have that that additional arm for new people, particularly coming out of university, first job, not sure how working environments are, especially creative agencies. Sometimes might be a bit shy to ask certain questions. So Tony's there to, what do I do at lunch? Where do I go? What are my policies? What if I have a sick day? What do I do? And Tony's that first kind of point of contact to bed them in, make them feel better. But she's much more than that. She's kind of our creative wingmate as well. So it's been designed as a GPT, been trained on everything n-fuze, and it was our introduction to bringing in AI into the teams. I was really keen to do it from a people perspective. So Tony has a personality, a look, an age, a way of writing, answering, speaking. She's very pun heavy. I love a creative wordplay and a pun. And she really has embodied everything. I think I looked at the back end the other day, and she's had over 3,000 conversations with our n-fusers now in about 18 months. So,
And when you say conversations, this is through how do I converse with Tony?
so Tony is a chat GPT bot, essentially.
Okay.
She's on a closed network, so everything that we train them on is our data. And she's rolled out to the team. So once they've been onboarded and they're settled into their roles, they go through some AI training with myself. We've partnered with a great legal company who kind of get us to tick all the right boxes to make sure that we're doing things correctly and safely. Really important for us. And then they're opened up to the world of Tony and Alfie, and they get to just have a conversation with them and ask them questions. Those conversations are private, but I get to see how much interaction she's actually getting with the teams. And then Alfie was number 2. So Alfie's our analyst, kind of Tony was the soft launch, if you like,
Yep.
getting her introduced into the studio, getting the guys used to the fact that we're going to have some of these tools available and these extra wingmates. And Alfie is invaluable now in taking our data of, I think we've got a database nearly 10 years old now, where we can actually dive into the insights of trends and patterns of our own work, our own clients, what kind of services we're doing, how many retailers are spending so many hours changing things, that kind of detail, and add more value back to our clients. We can really dig into and research our own work. And he's been an absolutely invaluable member to the team. It's interesting that we was worried about the adoption in the early days.
I was going to ask you about that, because when you think about AI, there's this narrative, right? AI is going to come and take everyone's jobs. But you started this with people first. That was your element of that. So how did you, for want of a better way of phrasing, how did you sell it in, and how did you get the team to get on board with that? Because I've spoken to your team, and they've referred to Tony and
Yeah,
Alfie, and I naturally assumed there were another person. You've referred to Tony as she. So how have you kind of got to that stage of adaptation?
exactly that. By making them a person, by bringing
Okay.
them into the team on a personal level, giving them a background, giving them a personality. They're not a robot. They're not something to be picked up and dropped. They're something to work with and collaborate with. You know, going back to our values, everything is we, not me. It's unity. It's being part of a team. So the digital n-fuzers are no different to that. They're brought into the fold, trained on how we talk and what we do. But also we go for a training process. So I create them. I'm doing the AI innovation for the agency, and we did a training session, talk about our 4 steps to AI success, how we're going to actually introduce it, how we're going to work with these tools, what they actually mean. The first step is the most important, is don't be afraid. We're not looking at any ways to replace a human or a person in our agency in any way. We're looking at how we can embrace it and make them more powerful, more efficient, more creative, give them that space to do the work they truly want to do.
Yeah.
Admin gets thrown around our studio quite a lot. And we have a lot of admin, so you know we can pass some of that stuff and the more boring paperwork bits over to some tools, and then have some creative AI assistance for the rest of the team.
So, having adopted AI so well in the business, what would you say are the tangible benefits that you have noticed for anybody listening?
Definitely time saving, biggest one for sure. We've taken away some of the simpler tasks and more basic questions, I guess. Onboarding process of new infusers coming in is much quicker, much smoother, and it's an efficiency thing. So a great example would be one of the digital teammates we've got now is called Scamp. And Scamp helps visualize ideas for our team. So we've got amazing creative people in the building, but not everyone can draw and articulate their idea onto a piece of paper. So you can talk through your idea, have a conversation with Scamp, who's been trained on how we create things, all the boundaries of retailers and all those kind of intricacies of what we do. And Scamp can help visualize your idea and bring it to life, which will then be passed to either our multimedia team or presented to our brand partner as a first round creative before we then go and do the high-end creative development on that idea. And in some cases, that's saving us 1 to 2 days in the creative timeline, which for an agency that works as at the pace we do on the deadlines we do, that's an incredible saving.
Right.
And I think, yeah, just getting the infusers up to speed now is much quicker with training documents that they've all been trained on, and the access to information is much easier now.
Okay, so my last question. This is a question that we're asking all of the guests who are kind enough to come on the podcast. The pod is called Lead with Curiosity. So, what are you curious about exploring or learning next as part of that evolution that you described earlier, Matt?
So like I said, everything for us is about evolution and moving forwards and what's the next way of pushing ourselves. Heard a great quote just the other week, which was always strive to innovate yourself out of existence, which can sound quite scary, but actually when you think about what it means is you've got to be doing stuff now that you weren't doing 5 years ago, and what you was doing every day should be the smaller part of your business. So
Right.
for us, it's looking at what that means next. So I now have the space with a leadership team and a fully functioning studio behind me who I completely trust to look outwards. It's really exciting for me to be in that position now. So really, as we come into our next fiscal year, our next year of game plans, and what does 26, 27 look like for us? It's what does 1% evolution look like in every role, in every team? How do we use AI to get that 1% efficiency, 1% additional creative space? And that could be for a tool or an app or something that I'm developing and looking at, a new partnership, but it's all around that evolution of what is next for us. I don't know if I mentioned it before, but we talk in years. So for us, it's 2.026.
Right.
It's the next version, the next year on, the next better power up of what we did before. So yeah, it's a really exciting year now. The stigma of AI is lifted a little bit. It's not going away. We need to embrace it. We know how to do it safely now. We've laid the groundwork. It's like, how can we really put that to work now?
Fantastic. Well, that seems like a really good place to finish. I wish you well with it. I'm
Thank you.
excited to see what the next 20 years bring. Thank you again for being a guest today and for being so open.
Absolute pleasure.
Thank you. We'll put all the details of n-fuze. If anyone that wants to find out more, check out the website in the post, and also just images of the Oast and everything else as well. It's well worth.
If you go on the website, you can actually click and have a little walk around the Oast in like a Google Maps kind of thing.
Fantastic. Super. Matt, it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you.
Cheers.
Okay, well, thank you so much to Matt for your insights there. A great episode. Really, really enjoyed speaking with Matt. If you enjoyed that and you'd like to listen to more content like that, then please give us a follow. You'll also find all the details and more information about n-fuze and Donovan Training Associates in the notes below.